Hello from the distant past. Just so this isn't me talking over a blank screen, I've thrown up a few raw video feeds as the background. Enjoy my slow, clumsy, pokey play that I usually edit around. The first thing I wanted to talk about in this update is the state of the buffer. Just how far ahead am I on these daily videos? And I'm recording this on the evening of October 29th. Toward the end of August, I realized I had a decent shot at finishing up the first year by the end of October, so I made that my goal. And then unfortunately, I lost about a week's worth of time in October to things that were outside of my control. Foolishly, I decided to still go for it and finish it up, but it's been a really rough few weeks for me as a result. One of the important things for me is that I have to be able to let myself take breaks from time to time. And I really haven't given myself a break in almost a month. It's both worn me out and made me more prone to mistakes in the past few weeks. So I'm giving myself tomorrow off to just chill and relax. One of the more frustrating things about Famidaily for me is that it does eat up virtually all of my free time. So I haven't been able to chill out and just relax with some of my games, including the Famicom games I've been picking up. There's quite a few of them that I'd like to just sit down and play for a while, especially so I can form some ideas about them before I get to those episodes. Even if I don't have time to get good at the game, it helps me to know what I need to show off when I'm recording video. With Famidaily taking up so much of my time, I don't have a backlog so much as I have a back library. Then there's my collection. One of the goals of Famidaily is that I'm playing on original, unmodified hardware using the actual cartridges. I'm rather pleased that I've only had to resort to emulation twice so far in the project, and those times weren't due to lack of cartridge. At the time of this recording, I still need 90 Famicom games. Unfortunately, when you get down to that number, most of what's left are games that are hard to get, games that are annoyingly expensive, or both. Fortunately for this project, I already own the two most expensive Famicom games, but there's still a few whose prices are best described as unfortunate. The next game in chronological order that I'm missing is the one for episode 520, or the exact halfway point of this project. That's one where the game tends to go for a little bit more than I want to pay, so I've been scouring some Japanese marketplaces looking for a cartridge that's a bit roughed up. The extremely weak yen has been helping me out a lot, too. Where do I get my games from? Well, the bulk of my Famicom collection came from j4u.co.jp. They're a really great site for picking up the more common games, and if you buy in large quantities, you're basically spending about $2 a cartridge on those. The downside there is that they tend to not carry things like the sports games or the mahjong games. I also use Surugaya quite a bit. They're a bit pricier, but since they're a second-hand store chain in Japan, they tend to carry a lot more things. I also use them to pick up old Famicom comics. Beyond that, there's a mishmash of smaller Japanese retailers who tend to be on the much more expensive side. But if you scrape around on enough of them, you do turn up deals from time to time. One of the things I thought I would wind up doing when I started Famidaily was occasional interludes like this, where I would explain some aspect of Famicom collecting. That didn't work out just due to time constraints. But someday I'll put together a nice big video on the wide variety of Famicom cartridge shells. Do you want to know which 4 games have split-colored cartridges? Well, you'll have to wait. A problem I've had with Famidaily is now that I'm past the Famicom boom era, a lot of the ancillary material has dried up. There were a lot of things that ran until about 1987 and then died out, like the adventure book lines, or the comics all about Famicom games. Now that's over, and it's lucky if I have magazine ads. Even the manuals aren't including a lot of original art anymore. I love being able to include that stuff because it's the kind of thing that you don't normally get to see. Another problem for me as I've gone on is that it's kind of hard to come up with things to say about the blander games. The really weird kusoge, or the games that have some bizarre, impenetrable mechanic, those are easy to talk about. The ones that are just another platformer, those are the ones that make me sit here staring at my screen trying to come up with an entrance point. I don't know what I'm going to find to say about baseball games by the time I reach Famista 94. And speaking of baseball games, it turns out I made some errors when I built my episode list for Famidaily. I accidentally left 2 expansion cartridges that plug into other hardware on it, and there are 3 cartridges that if I had stuck to my original mandate of only games, then I shouldn't have put them on the list. Rather than rework my episode numbers, I'm going to deal with those expansion cartridges when I get there, though I'm not buying the $800 stat update for a baseball game. I'm also going to have to go back and insert a couple episodes for Family Basic. I skipped over them as not games, but now they kind of stand out as just being ignored. So I'll go back to them eventually. I've got one more thing to mention. I don't look at my stats at all for this channel. I knew going in that I would have a tiny audience at best. I've got a general idea from subscriber alerts and video comments that I've got a couple dozen viewers, and I want to say that's just fine. I always knew that this was going to have a tiny viewership, and I certainly don't do anything to try to build my channel. I'm not trying to make money off Famidaily, and I had no expectations of ever making money off Famidaily. I just wanted to fill the hole that I found as a Famicom collector of a lot of games not having a lot of resources for them. If I can finish Famidaily, then I'll be proud to have made a useful resource for any other Famicom collectors out there. So have fun, play some of these games that I'm talking about, and I'll talk to you again after episode 730.